Australian time zones are complicated a little bit further when it comes to summer versus winter times. In summer, some of the states in Australia decide to use daylight saving time. So that is when we turn our clocks ahead 1 hour to make it that we would actually have more daylight time in the times that would suit us in the evenings. So when we come home from work, we've got more time after work to enjoy the sunlight before we go to bed in the dark. So some states, so that is New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia and Tasmania, actually do this, but the other states don't. So you can see in our normal regions, we've got our Central Standard Time. Sorry, we've got our Western Standard Time, our Central Standard Time, and our Eastern Standard Time. But on top of that, we've got these other times that change as well at daylight saving. So that means we've got our Eastern Standard Time in Queensland, which changes to Eastern Daylight Saving Time down here in the green regions. Our Central Standard Time, which was yellow before, now has two different time zones here, creating a Central Daylight Saving Time, and the Western Standard Time stays the same. So where we had 3 regions before, we've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different time regions because of daylight saving. So I want you to think about this in regards to doing question 2 of your worksheet. So keep referring to this and think about, well, normally it would have just been, say, at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, it would be 9 o'clock all the way along here. But now this one becomes 10 p.m. because it adds an hour on, or down in here. Now normally at 9 o'clock here in the Central Standard Time, it's half an hour behind. But then in South Australia, they go into the daylight saving time, so that goes back adding on 1 hour to 9:30. So they're still half an hour behind this region, but they're actually half an hour ahead of Queensland. So you could keep referring back to this map to help you to do question 2. So if you want to pause the video and then try that question, please, on your worksheet. Okay, so let's have a look at the answers here. If it's 1 o'clock in Sydney, now Perth is normally 2 hours behind, but because of daylight saving, it now becomes 3 hours. So it's 3 hours behind. In Adelaide, it's 11 a.m. Now, Albany is in Western Australia. Now, Adelaide, which is normally an hour and a half ahead, actually now becomes 2.5 hours ahead. So we have to take 2.5 hours off. Hobart, which is in daylight saving time, and Cairns, which isn't. So they're both in the eastern region, but Hobart's now an hour and ahead because of daylight saving time, so we take an hour off to get 8:15. In Canberra and Brisbane, again, it's in the eastern region, but Canberra is in the daylight saving time, and Brisbane, so then it becomes an hour behind that. Alice Springs is in Central Standard Time, and it stays the same. Now, Port Augusta over is actually an hour ahead. Melbourne is 8 a.m. Now, Broken Hill is in the Adelaide time, so it's going to be half an hour behind because that's also in the daylight saving times. Broken Hill, so that remember that's in that Central Standard Time, but the daylight saving variation of it, and Perth. So there's usually an hour and a half difference, but now it becomes 2.5 hours. Rockhampton, up in Queensland, is still in Eastern Standard Time. Broome is still in Western Standard Time, so there's just the 2 hours difference.